Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with Matt, Adam, Brian, Doug, and Freddie, where they discuss everything that matters in today's fire service. Now let's get to the show.
Now that's the first time I pooped my pants.
Or better yet, hold on a second. I mean, not that I don't want to sport my company hat, but I loved this month's burn box hat, hooks and iron. It's like right there. So let me change this out. There we go. That's better.
That's a cool patch.
It is cool. Like, I love these fonts.
Yeah.
And the design of these. These are beautiful.
That's a cool hat. I like that design too.
And
it's very nice.
I got the whole July right here.
You got the whole shebang. You know what else I thought was kind of cool was like how in the box, like you can tell it's like exclusive because it's literally embroidered on the, what do you call that? Not cufflets. What is that called?
Yeah.
Is it cufflets?
No.
Wrist? Whatever it's called.
Oh my God. Now because you're asking me, and my brain is so toast right now. Oh my gosh. You're talking about gauntlets.
House, bro.
Yeah.
It's a gauntlet.
And if people do not do the smoked chuck roast in this month's episode, you're missing out. This smoked chuck roast was killer.
How long did you smoke it for?
It was probably like 4 or 5 hours total. But the key with it was it's like Mississippi pot roast, but on your smoker.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the smoke infused that you wouldn't get in the crock pot. And man, over rice, it is killer. It is good stuff. And I mean, like, it's one of those types of things with some potatoes and carrots. I don't care what time of year it is. It's delicious. Adam, you're killing me.
This is 2 podcasts in a row that we've opened up the show with talking about food.
Is there anything wrong with that?
There is nothing wrong with that.
I was going to say, it's supposed to be like the firehouse kitchen table, right? So, I mean, if you're not talking about what you're cooking at the table, then it's all wrong, right?
Yeah.
But what a great segue to starting out the Cool Fireman Podcast. Brought to you by
Unkie Seasoning.
Unkie Seasoning. I did that as he was taking a drink on purpose because I wanted him to say it. Come on, man.
Unkie Seasoning. Bring that firehouse flavor from, it's late. It's late for me. From the firehouse to your house.
You had one job, Adam. I pitched it to you and you dropped the ball.
I got 1,000 jobs.
Hey, seriously, how's the July stuff going? The whole cookout.
The whole cookout celebration of the girl's first birthday. It's busy. We got our new bottles in, and I'm in my office, and they're on the other side. We got a new top for them. They're pop top. So one side's a shaker, one side's a pour or measuring. We got all our nutritious facts on there. All of our seasonings are low sodium, except for our salt-free garlic and herb, which is fantastic. So we got all of our 5 flavors out on unkieseasoning.com. That's what I got. Jackson.
I feel like you've gotten a lot of engagement on Facebook and stuff. Does it feel that way for you, or has it been still kind of low?
Our Facebook following has dramatically increased. It's still
nice.
It helps to give away free stuff, right? It helps to give away free stuff.
And me and my wife were talking about discuss our customers in general, and we do have a lot of loyal customers, and I'm really grateful and really appreciative of all that. And I mean, it just keeps the wheel, keep on turning.
I'll say, and I don't want to go over the specifics, but Adam and I texted about something that I'm pretty stoked about that may happen yesterday. Remember the conversation yesterday? And I'm not talking about the number 2. I'm talking about the other. But we talked about some things that we may have in the work that would be kind of a first that no one else has done with Adam and with I as far as collaborations. And I'm pretty stoked about it. In fact, while we're together in August, we're probably going to pitch it to them. And so we got meetings coming, and I'm stoked about it. Like,
I'm going to give a hint. It involves a donkey.
That is not true. It does not involve any donkeys. Man. Oh, me. Speaking of, who else sponsors our podcast, Matt?
The Burn Box.
The burn box.
Yeah, we were talking about it. You got that hat. Came with gloves. It came with a glove holder, a T-shirt, right, and a recipe that's sponsored by East Coast Kelly's, and not the Cool Fireman Podcast.
It won't focus. It won't focus, but it's the bulletin training as well. Gives you a tremendous center.
The 8 Stinger light gloves, the glove clips at $32, the hook and irons, the standard trucker snapback hat from Hook and Irons, and the burn box elevator drop key.
Yeah, all cool things.
About a little over $92 worth of value for how much the box runs now? 60 something.
Well, I think it depends on how your subscription is, but yeah,
it's fantastic. I've had it for, over a year. I absolutely love it. Nice little, a lot of neat, cool things that come in here, and awesome recipes and training beds. I share the training with my brother. He's a lieutenant in the local city department. I sent it to him.
I haven't asked our followers to do this, but if you do make any of the recipes that you get in the burn box, tag me, please. I'd love to put you on the East Coast Kelly storyboard. And so that way we can show you some love. So if you do it, please do it. Speaking of engagements, I would love to show how people are putting in work at the firehouse. So, faux show.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to do it. And I'm pretty sure we could maybe even share it on the Cool Fireman now that I got that login. So that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, we want to do a moment of silence too, speaking of.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're a new listener to the Cool Fireman Podcast, our energy is like really low this one. I feel like everybody's like, what is going on? I just got back from a camping trip with my family. Literally like a couple hours ago, I had to wash the dog because he just had stickers from high heaven just all over him. And so our energy's a little low, but we got to pick this up a little bit. But yes,
I have a feeling by the end of this podcast, we'll be wound tight. I'm just saying that's usually the way it goes. Yeah.
We're going to find something to talk about. And then it's going to, Doug's not here. He got wound pretty tight.
You think?
Dude, people loved it though.
There's our comment question. Could he have fit in any more F-bombs in his rant?
He had so many F-bombs that when I was editing it and bleeping them out, I actually missed one. And then I was like, I
got complaints about that.
Oh, you did?
Fans complained, yeah.
Who complained?
Some listeners, they're like, it was just way too much to use that explicit language repeatedly. Wow. I didn't even listen to it yet. So I saw the promo. So I was like, ooh, well,
passionate people.
When Doug gets
doing passionate,
oh, I know. I've been there too and passionate about certain things and just, I get it.
To the moon. Well, let's do a short moment of silence.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it for those that we've lost this week.
Yes.
Amen. For
thank
sure.
You.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, it's unfortunate. My wife was listening and she was like, "Why do you guys do that?" Like that was one of the first podcasts that she listens to, and I like to watch it on YouTube. And so she happened to come in that morning while I was drinking my cup of coffee, and so was she. And it was literally right after I started it, and she was like, "Why do you guys do that?" Because she missed the first part, and I said, "Well, it's to honor the firefighters that was lost." And she was like, "Well, that's pretty awesome. Not everybody does that. I mean, you do it certain times a year and at certain moments, but to do that every week, that's pretty cool." So we're trying to be better at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic.
I love it.
I don't know about your guys.
I watched Terry on the stage right now. He's just so animated. So I apologize.
What were you saying? You said you don't know about your hard July?
I don't know about your guys' July, but July has been crazy at work. I don't know if everybody's feeling it. It's probably a universal thing all over the country. It's just, summertime, the kids are out of school, the weather's typically a little bit nicer or whatever. But at work, we've been trying to fit in like just so much stuff. And one of the things that we changed this year was they gave each captain, we have 12 captains, so 12, one for each month. And each captain has to do a target hazard walkthrough. And so I'm doing a big hotel walkthrough at the end of the month. And then on top of that, I had to do a probationary captain shift training. So I did the shift training on initial action, or initial attack, rather, structural and wildland fires. And just kind of like did a little bit of research on it because, like when you think of initial attack, it's like, oh, like there's really not that much about it. It's just like whatever your first initial decisions are going to be. And I wanted to kind of go into more like why, I've got some on my face, why people make the decisions that they do. And
Right.
my fire chief decided to start this thing up with the captains where we read a book and then we do like a report on it. And we all get together and collaborate over it and talk about it. And we kind of like use, certain lessons that we learned from the book and relate it or compare it to, the fire service and our jobs. So it's been good. But we're reading this book called Blink, and Malcolm Gladwell book. And it's good. It's a good book. So far, I'm through the first couple chapters. First chapter talked about like how you make decisions, which I would call like your gut decision. It's just like, it's like an unconscious decision. Something that, you rely on your training and your education and your experience in order to make split decisions. And a lot of people like myself, I'm an overanalyzer. And I've noticed, I found that you can't do that when you're trying to make decisions quickly. You can't be an overanalyzer. So I've had to learn how to kind of, change that. But I talked about initial, well, I want to see maybe what you guys think, I guess, the key topics that I pulled from my research about it was the first one was coordination. So being coordinated and having a coordinated attack and to be as efficient as possible. So it's basically like 4 different factors that are going to allow us be more efficient on the fire ground. And coordination was number 1. Number 2 is adaptability. I think those 2 are pretty close to number 1. I mean, in order, to be adaptable on the fire ground is extremely important. And just because of like factors that, sometimes like changing conditions or uncontrollable things that might happen where, we can't get into a house because of, access issues or hazards that may come around like, overhead wires or whatever. So it was coordination. I talked about IC a lot, incident command and different thoughts. And one of them was, and I don't know what you guys think about this. Our training chief right now, when we were going through scenarios to kind of learn how to, take IC and how to do a resource allocation, all that. The chief said, "Hey, don't be so quick to take incident command. Like you don't need to go on scene, give a little description of what's going on, and then take command." What he's kind of pushing is like, what if you came on scene, you see fire and you say, "Hey, yeah, you got a 2-story house on fire, Alpha side, whatever, engine, whatever is going to be investigating." Well, a lot of people would be like, "What do you mean? Like it's a fire, upgrade the fire to work in fire and then take incident command." But he's more like, well, get out, do a 360, investigate a little bit. What if there's somebody hanging out the window on the Charlie side of the structure, And that way, then, but you can always kind of argue too, right? And that you can say, "Oh, I could take command from the cab, get out, do a 360. All of a sudden I see someone, I just say, 'Hey, we're going rescue section and passing command.'" Like how hard is that, But I think it puts you in a different a little bit different of a mode when you're just going investigating rather than taking incident command right away. But one of the downfalls I see in that is I don't know how about you guys, but we have engines like right on our tail. I mean, we get on scene and within like a minute, there's another engine. And if I haven't taken command already, they're going to be going, "Hey, engine, whatever's on scene staged. Hey, whatever engine's on scene staged." And it's like, "Oh my, I don't even have a structure set up yet." And that makes me feel uneasy, But anyways, so yeah, it was coordination. The 4 topics that I brought up or the key factors for an efficient initial attack was coordination, adaptability, speed, and not just like fast, like, running or like actual speed, but just like recognition, the speed of recognition. So like recognizing what you have and then making a decision off of, what you see. Changing conditions. If you see something, say something. I'm super proud in our fire department that, we've always tout me, bro, that 6 eyes are better than 2. There might be departments out there and the culture is where, I'm the captain, I'm going to make the decision. Well, yeah, you're the captain, you're going to make the decision. But I think that it's incredibly important to have those 2 other people, because we run 3-0, to say, hey, did you see this? I'm like, oh shit, no, I didn't, Anyway, so the speed, like recognition, and then just safety. Like, you can't go wrong with throwing safety in there,
Yeah, that wins cool points, right? So I purposely waited on responding. Adam, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
I'm over here. I was there taking notes because he was doing wonderful, and I'm the kind of guy that will interrupt you. So my question is, you said that there's a captain for every month in your department. What month are you?
Oh, I'm this month. So sorry if that didn't come through.
Mr. July.
Ooh,
yeah,
July.
so I'm
What
July.
That's what a good month to be. All right. And for books, I recommend The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton.
Oh,
That's a fantastic book.
Outsiders.
Yes.
Not Outliers.
The Outsiders. And don't worry, they made a movie, so you can watch the movie version if you want.
I got to be the movie guy. I don't read books.
I'm more of a visual,
but
I don't.
Tom Cruise in it. It's awesome.
That's Matt McDreamy.
Miyagi's the guy. Daniel Sun's in it. It's actually a really good movie, and it's a better book. So,
Sweep the leg.
So I want to go back to the 4 priorities that you got. Yep. So I'm not gonna armchair quarterback what you think. That's not my
No,
role.
we're having a discussion.
Yeah. I want to go back to the chief's thought process of investigation. I think you own incident command from the time that you arrive there. You establish priorities, but you need to establish incident command. And I think that I'm like you in the context of saying, you have reservations about it because of what it is. Without creating the incident command structure and establishing it, you're not establishing ownership, right?
Okay.
And without ownership, you can't establish responsibility. Because if you're investigating, I'm not responsible. What am I doing? I'm just collecting information at this point. When you're the incident commander, you are responsible for the decision that's made until the incident is no longer within the scope of your responsibility or your priorities by your department's SOPs. So for me, I hear what he's saying, and I'm not disagreeing with it. I think investigation is a top priority, right? I'm going to say instead of investigation, maybe validation, right? And the reason why I say that is because if you think about it, you've already got a lot of information from your 911 caller. You had enough information to dispatch. If you EFD'd that call, which most jurisdictions are doing that based off of protocols, based off of getting units, enough chiefs have jumped up and down and said, I don't need to send 5 units for a sparking, box on a building. I need to ask 3 more questions and say, how far away is it from that building? Oh, it's far enough away and it's on a pole. That's not a structure fire. That's a service call, right? And so what you're doing is not investigating. You're validating the information that you received on that 911 call. So I think that we're using those 2 thoughts interchangeably, and that's not a bad, but you're owning it. You're owning the validation. And in that minute and a half, the speed that you spoke to, I think is true. In that moment, you understand that because I own this, I need to be able to give and validate this information to the people that are coming. For what? For adaptability purposes. Was that information accurate? And if it wasn't, you've already got protocols for item 1, which was, tell me what it was. I know what it is. It's about being proficient, but that's not the word you used. You used, what was the adjective?
Efficient.
Efficient. Yeah, so you used efficient. So you want to make sure that you're efficient, and then if that efficiency needs adaptability, you can. And all those things are happening simultaneously while you're trying to be safe. So I agree with everything that you said. I think that that's critical. The only thing that I had a little bit of heartburn about was you have to have ownership on that scene. You have to, from the moment you arrive, you have to do it. Now, how quickly you as an organization accept the responsibility of putting water on fire, that's up to you as an organization, right? And how you do that, like saying, hey, are we going to perform a 360? Am I going to give a call from inside the cab? Am I going to throw a ladder right out the gate? Those are all departmental protocols. But the items that you said, spot on. But you got to establish command, because if not, the scene is going to control you. And you don't need to do that. You need to control that scene. And that's what, I mean, imagine if you got out of the cab and like someone comes up to you and goes, oh my God, my baby's in there.
Right.
Like, I don't know if anybody's ever not had that happen before, but like it's happened to me. Not necessarily a baby, but a victim. And so you're like, okay, well, you got to have ownership before you ever get out of the truck.
Yeah. Well, I think like the biggest thing, what you're trying to say, or what you are saying, not trying to, I misspoke, but, is what command does is it brings structure to the call. And if you don't have structure, you just topple over. And it's just like what I said earlier, it's, you got engines coming on scene. You got to have somebody in command, in my opinion. It's just the first, one of the slides that I had in my presentation was that, the first 5 minutes, I had like a definition of what initial attack was. And then right next to it, I said the first 5 minutes, and whether it's a structure fire or a wildland fire, is probably the most crucial time in the entire incident, because that's the time that you're going to start putting that base, those building blocks.
Set the tone, boys.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not just what the captain's decisions are. It's where you park your rigs. Right. Yeah. If you start parking rigs all willy nilly, you're going to get all jumbled up, and whatever else. Right. And it's just little things as that is just that first 5 minutes. You take time to freaking make some good decisions. And the rest of the call is just like what you said, just you just got to put water on the fire. And I didn't get into the weeds. I told the guys at the very beginning of the presentation, I said, my intention in this presentation is not to get into the weeds about tactics. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to go do your tactics. I might give you, hey, this is what I'm seeing. So let's pull a line to this door, not that door, whatever. Right. But they're going to go do it.
Well, and let's, I don't want to say go in the weeds, but like, let's at least get the hedge trimmers out for this for a second. Right.
Yeah.
Because I think that speaks to pre-incident planning purpose, because every captain in that fire district should have a tactical plan for adaptability, right? Like, I mean, you should be, again, it goes back to, if you have nice homes 300 foot off the road and the longest you carry is a 250-foot cross lay, you better have that decision already made in your first due.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and it goes along with the target hazard training that we're doing. I said mine was a big montage hotel is what it is in Laguna, and I've set it up. But yes, what you just said, it's funny. You read my mind, because that's where I was going next. I told the guys I'm not going to get into the weeds, but this next slide is just something to think about. Initial actions can be more efficient and proficient, really, whatever. If you're doing, during fire prevention. So when we're out doing our inspections, I mean, we shouldn't just be, oh my goodness.
There you go.
We shouldn't just be looking for fire code violations, but we should also be talking about how we would fight a fire there and becoming more familiar with that structure. And not only during that, but we have pre-plans. And that was the second bullet. So you already nailed that. You hit it right on the head. We got pre-plans that we should be opening up on the way to the structure fire. We got a lot to do. And then the last one is community risk reduction. And we had talked about that before we hit record. But another, proud of my city for spending lots of money. I think I've said this on this podcast. We're in a very high wildland fire danger, especially being in California with our weather. But we are in intermix. We have houses within
wildland urban interface. You have
exactly. Yeah. And we've got goats. And we've got professional field mitigation services that come in, and they do a great job. They spend millions of dollars to keep their citizens safe. And actually, the citizens they enjoy their open spaces and the beauty of it, but they also understand how dangerous that open space is in an emergency. So, but yeah, during those times and knowing where all the risk reduction is being, placed, having familiarity with all that. And we just have really wonky town. We only have like 24,000 people that live in Laguna. We have 4 stations. 4.
Yeah.
I mean, like people would be like, wait, what? And we could do that with 1 station, but we have our topography, from sea level all the way to our station 3, which is on top. We call it top of the world. It's at like 1,100 feet. So there's a lot of undulation. There's a lot of wacky streets.
Well, spell that.
What?
Undulation or whatever you said.
Undulation.
Oh my gosh. That's like a 50-cent word.
It starts with a U.
That was impressive.
You can spell it any way you want to. He'll believe you.
I would. Man, I want to use that. Use that in a sentence, please.
I got.
You did.
I do. I got some like serious questions.
Okay, bring it.
Talking. So, it's basically my question is like, how is your incident command ran? And the examples I would give is, when I was in the city, I was taught by a wonderful battalion chief, Jimmy Smith. This dude did like 47 years and he's been retired for like 10 years. He'll run around anybody. Good farm boy.
Yeah.
But he told me that, it's a command way he runs it is boring for him because he puts all the proper people in, responsible people in positions. He lets operation run the show. He says, only my job is to talk to dispatch. Operation tells me what he wants, what he needs. I tell dispatch. He runs the scene. He says, I'm safety, but I got my EMS officer running accountability and stuff. I get bored and I'll walk around the building. That's his second set of eyes, but that's what he's doing. He's dealing with dispatchers in the outside world. Everybody outside that property. Then there's my department where operations, they handcuff them. The operations, we have an operation officer, but everything's run by our incident command. And in the federal installation, we'll have 20 to 25 people sitting around the incident command, talking to him, having conversations with him while we're trying to do stuff. We got environmental there. We got the commander of the base there. The command duty officer works for the CO, the XO, whoever's responsible for that building, their bosses, and all these people, and they're all bothering him. And I've said multiple times to our battalion chiefs, is like, y'all need to trust your operations. If you can't trust a captain, because its command is usually held by, on a good day, a battalion chief or the next level up. So if you can't trust your captain or that acting officer for that day to run operations, or that group of people that are there, they don't need to be sitting in seats then on that day.
So can I interject a question before he goes to that?
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on like specialty style incidents? Does a station captain need to run a technical rescue incident if they're not proficient in that?
No, I think, you're always going, you want your key players in the position. So if, let's say, Captain Matt rolls up, Captain July says, we got a technical rescue here. Well, that's not him. That's Station 3, top of the world guys.
Yeah.
We're going to stage and get everything ready.
Right.
And when the station, top of the world guys get there, they say, this is what I need. You kind of pass operations over.
Yeah.
You're
I get
officer.
It. And that's kind of what I was trying to make sure that I understood what you were saying, because I thought that's what you were saying.
Does your incident command do everything, or do they let?
You're not going to like my answer.
Everybody else in the pyramid do their job.
It's circumstantial.
Yeah.
You're not going to like my answer, but it depends on the size and the complexity of the incident.
And it depends on the person.
And I'll tell you, so, Brian's question about, are you going to let a station captain run a technical rescue even though he's not proficient at it? So on the West Coast, or at least in my, let's just say within 100 miles of all the way around of where I work, every captain that is first on to any scene, it doesn't matter what it is, whether there's a cat stuck in a tree or we have 15 cars on fire and they're all flipped over and there's bodies running around on fire. It doesn't matter. They have to be able to take command of an incident and understand what you have and then order the correct resources. Like it's just expected. If you don't know how to do it,
you said the tone, like you said, the incident command sets the tone, but once you get flowing, on the scene and everybody's there now.
Yeah.
Does your department let operations do their job and IC sit back?
Yeah. So the terminology that we would use is as a captain, I'd roll up onto let's just say a car accident and say, hey, we got a 2-vehicle TC, moderate damage. We're going to be investigating for injuries. Right. And all of a sudden, like, oh shit. Now we got 8, one person's trapped. Okay. Now we're going to upgrade this to a TC cut and rescue. We're going to take command, and then that automatically sends a battalion chief. Battalion chief's going to get to me. And then one of the parts of my initial attack presentation was doing a solid transfer of command. And so, yes, the battalion chief would come on, and then he would basically take over IC, or he would assume it. And then he would just interject me into wherever I need to go. I could end up being rescue. I could be medical, whatever. Right. It just depends on So, I mean, that's like what keeps you up at night, or for me at least, is as a new captain is like, what's going to happen when those tones go off? What are we going to see? Are people going to be stuck on the side of the cliff? Because we have tons of cliffs. We got beaches, kids. 3:00 in the morning, we had kids stuck. They were trying to go around this point. The tide came in. They got stuck. So now it's like I get down there. I got 3 kids on this ledge. And I'm like, I'm not going in the water. So then we had to get lifeguards. They had to come out. Do we need lights? We can order helicopters to come give us light and help us with the rescue, blah, blah, blah. You just got to know, the best thing to know is what your resources are capable of. You know what I mean? We have heavy rescue trucks. We have USAR trucks. We have regular trucks. And so we just have to be able to know. And so going back to your question again, Brian, it's like, what if you're not proficient at it? Well, that's fine. If you're not proficient at running an incident command, I mean, it's not fine, but it can be, because you can kind of figure a way to at least get the resources coming, and then the battalion chief's going to take over anyways.
So I want to go back and kind of give my thought, because I think that was a perfect segue for me to go back. You made a comment about community risk reduction and pre-incident planning in your presentation and all this other stuff.
You love that. I knew you were
I do, but not for the purpose of fire helmets and stickers. It's not about that. True CRR is not always about, that. It's not about it. It's about what's not controllable, right? There are certain, I have people that I've had station captains who are like, screw the stickers. We're going to hand out matches and lighters to these kids. And I'm like, stop, we're not doing that. That sounds dumb. We're firefighters. That's what we're here for. We're here to put out fire. And then I've also had, captains that were, Adam's laughing way too hard on that one. But I literally had captains who came in, and I'll ask them questions about their first due, and they can't tell me about it. When I say captains, I'm saying captains. Let's go back even further. In my years as county fire marshal, it was volley captains who lived in that community their whole life, grew up in that area. And I go, if you had this, what's your plan? And they don't have an answer for it. That community profile is not changing. If you had an ag rescue, if Mr. Jimmy, who plants soybeans, gets wrapped up in his combine, what's your plan? Mm-hmm. Pre-incident planning is not about brick and mortar. It's about incident responses. So I go back to Adam's comment about people being overwhelmed and being proficient. You're not proficient because you haven't gone and racked your brain or been worried to that level. You haven't owned the responsibility of what? Of knowing that that incident command could be yours. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people need to have. They need to have the responsibility that in their first due, this could happen. And again, I'm not saying everyone needs to be proficient at everything, because they're not, but they need to do an assessment on their shift, right? That battalion chief needs to look around and says, hey, if I have this, who's going to be the one that I call? Now, on that shift, if that incident calls out, that, I don't know what you call it. We call it pin in, but that pin in comes in and I've got a really good person at doing technical rescue. I don't know, bus, cement truck, garbage truck, whatever it is, something that's heavy, something that's beyond the norm on that shift. The protocol says, oh, I got to level up. I got to do a second alarm. I, as the battalion chief, going to get on the radio and say, central or dispatch or comms, whatever you call them, I want this instead of that. We're going to do a second alarm, but send me this engine instead of that one. And it's not personal for the next one that's over. It's just because of the situational awareness. Why? Because the guy or the lady that's pinned needs the best qualified person there at that moment. Why? Because it goes back to what Adam said. They don't need to be troubled with ops. They're going to be busy trying to order ambulances, get air medical on standby, talk to PD about the road. They need to have the right person in that spot, because really, and this is what I got taught in my ICS 300 and 400, you're really not in charge of the incident. You're only mediating the incident, right? Who's in charge of the incident is your ops people who are actually out doing the work. You're only mediating the requests on their behalf. If you have people that you put in the roles of those operations and they're not proficient, then you didn't mediate appropriately. You're the one at fault as the incident commander who took it. So I go back to that and I say CRR is much, much more different than that, and about the pre-incident planning. I know we've talked about having that episode on and what that really looks like at the station level. Because again, it's not just about what you're deciding to hand out at that touch a truck or that station tour. CRR is way bigger than that. Like you said, it's about looking at it in your community, taking risks. And so we've got a guest lined up that I think will, hopefully we'll be able to get her on, and provide some insight, because I think it takes it so much bigger than that, and will calm, if you truly understand it, it will calm some of the anxiety that people have. Because why? You're going to be proficient at it in your district. You're going to have focused training. It goes back to the conversations we've had on this podcast before about, coming in, hey, what do you guys want to do today? Map study. Okay. And that's it, because you've done the drill book 947 times and you can do it inside and out. So now it's just about putting hours on the book. So that way, the training chief doesn't get upset, but it's really about doing those things. So I'm going to step off my side soapbox. I think Adam had another question.
Well, was a comment was, do y'all have any, just trying to think, like Brian said, it's just more than a building walkthrough or knowing the structure of the building. There was an incident last weekend, I think it was, in South Hill, and man, this thing don't want to work with me tonight. So anyways, in South Hill, a lady, there's a chemical plant, fertilizer plant, a big, like a AG store.
Doug talked about it last week on the episode. That's one of the things that triggered it, but I love it. So
they fought the fire. Yeah. They put the wet stuff on the hot stuff, right? That's what we're supposed to do. But they weren't concerned or they didn't care about I would say the water runoff. So all that water runoff got into the water and it shut down Lake Gaston, 32 miles of lake. Family fun, no fishing, do not eat the fish, do not swim, do not boat, don't touch it, don't look at it. And it's all because of this water runoff. And that both states are doing a bunch of testing. Mainly Virginia is handling it. North Carolina's going along with Virginia's rules. And I think they got it cornered to one neck of the woods, but that feeds all the way through. And in that lake is the city of Virginia Beach's drinking water. That's where they get their drinking water from. So,
not no more.
And me and my father talked about it. Maybe this would be good for you, Captain July, to think about, like, if you have some places like that, like, or even a gas station, just to throw out there, our water runoff, where's it going to go?
Yeah.
We have to worry about that. You got to call your sewer guys, start pumping that out, because y'all right there on the water too.
Yeah.
Still go to the beach. You kill the beach tourism. City people going to get mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
And being with the federal service, we are taught to be mindful of where we put our water at. Foam is a big no-no on our base unless we extremely have to use it. On our ships, every gallon you put on, you got to plan to take a gallon, you got to pump off. Not, you're going to sink the ship. We got lots of fuels, lots of grease and oil, and we're always around water, being the Navy. So we have to be mindful of what these drains are and if we got to cover them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the pre-incident planning, though.
Yes,
right.
Comes into your ballpark, Mr. Kelly. But it's also, I don't know, something you can throw in there in your bag of tricks, Mr. Captain July, for training and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think
people gotta be aware of that because it does affect a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the fire service is chock full of acronyms and one-liners. And the one thing that popped up in my head when you were talking, Adam, was every action, there's a reaction. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what you do. You know, you put water on the fire and you put the fire out. Now you got a water problem, just like you said, and that could be inside of a structure. That doesn't even have to be runoff, but that's an absolutely a great point. I mean, it's almost like an afterthought, but, what are our main priorities? Life, property, and environment, and the water runoff can be part of that environmental issue that you could have on an incident. So yeah, no, I think that's a great thing. And I'm sitting here, I was listening to you guys, and one thing that I thought about was like this right here, in my opinion, this is kind of like, nerding out a little bit in the fire service. I know we like to have fun and talk more fun stuff around the coffee table, the virtual coffee table, but I'm always super, interested to hear what your guys' training or, like I know that they talk about blue card or something for incident command on the East Coast, or maybe it's the Midwest.
Not everybody does that. I mean, it is something that's done, but I think it's very regional.
But just learning about the different ways, that and the different things that that people are doing in the country, and what the knowledge base and what the expectation is, and so I think that's really cool. I think it's really cool.
I like to think about little things like the water runoff, because everybody talks about fire attack. This is how you advance a hose line. Everybody talks about that. I like to sit back and kind of go, what about this? Yeah. We haven't reviewed this in a while, guys. It is part of our process.
Yeah.
So I give the statement anytime I do a class or do a talk or whatever you want to call it, about the value of pre-incident planning in this context is when you have that big fire, and think about it, when you pre-incident plan, the majority of those are your big fires. So if it's a strip mall fire, how many strip mall fires have you ever worked in your career? The normal U.S. firefighters are probably going to run one or two of those in their whole career. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm talking like heavy fire involvement. I'm not talking your run-of-the-mill house fire. I'm not talking about a car fire. I'm saying like those big commercial fires, a hotel, with heavy fire involvement, not a kitchenette at a efficiency place. But the value of that is that's your Super Bowl, right? Like that is your once in a career time to get it right. And the majority of our first dues have those target hazards in their first due, and we gaff it off. You know what? And I say I'm collectively saying that prevention, ownership, we are one fire department, the chief all the way down. The majority of departments come back and say, hey, do you have an emergency contact? Do you got like a sketch of the outline of that building? You got the floors plan laid out so that way if, Jimmy the firefighter gets trapped, we'll know where to go drag him out of. It's not tactical. That is your playbook, and we gaff it off. We're more interested in getting back to the firehouse and talking about RIT, Mayday, new TR stuff. And it's like, but where are you going to use that at? You're going to use that at your Super Bowl, at your one big event, and you just left it and you did nothing with it. I go back to an incident that as the fire chief, one of the things I had a station captain who hated pre-planning, but touted himself for his tactical skills, like in training. And I said, I'm putting you over pre-plans. Made him so mad, right? And he was like, I don't know why you're giving this to me. And I said, who else better to give me my playbook than the tactical person, right? Like, you hate it. It's something that's going to make you better as a captain because you're going to have to be forced to write it down, document it, sketch it out, do all this other stuff. But you're so good tactically. Why would I want to give the person that's not good tactically that because they're good at drawing? If they're not good tactically, why would I give that to them? It goes just back to what we just said about that on that scene. The fire chief is responsible to be the incident commander, i.e. the person in charge of those operations, and put the most qualified people doing the most important things to be as proficient as they can, so that way everybody is successful. So whether that's the firefighter who's catching the hydrant and knows which one to catch, the driver has the best water pressure, and the captain can make the right tactical decision. So I'm going to get off that high horse and just say pre-incident planning is one of those things that is the most underrated but most critically needed things to me in the fire service. Then 90% of our training that we do, just because it kind of goes back to what Doug was saying before, and I'll leave the explicits out on my little rant, is people just gaff it off. They just don't find the value in it. And it is way late to be able to use that. When you're called the Super Bowl, your opponents already beat you. And that's why adaptability is so important, because we undermine the value of pre-incident planning. We have to adapt because we weren't ready for it. And I think that if we started to be more efficient and more proficient, then we wouldn't have to worry so much about adaptability. And that's kind of where I wanted to come back to all that. So I told you the attitude would change by the end of the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
We did. We went
conversation.
We kind of went from drab to like flab.
Yeah, it's all good. No, I wanted to bring it up. We didn't really have anything discussed before the podcast that we were going to talk about, so I thought, shit, why not? So that was good.
I think it was a great podcast. I think it's good, and I think it tees up what we had talked about before about future podcasts, where we're going to talk about tactics, we're going to talk about CRR and the value of that to everybody in the organization. And so I think that that's a good segue into some future podcasts.
Yeah, very good.
I love it. I think we're good. We'll see you next week. Oh, we got to ask him to comment about something. I know we kind of made something earlier. So what is your organization? I guess I'll pitch the question. What does your organization do regarding incident command and pre-incident planning? Drop a comment, whatever platform you're watching, you're listening on, and tell us how your organization values or uses pre-incident planning and incident command.
Very cool.
Adam, you got to say it this week.
Roll it, Gigi.
Roll it, Gigi.
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out thecoolfireman.com for more. Thanks!